Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, John here, talking everything DC United, Washington Spirit, U.S. men's, women's national team. It's all here all the time. John, how are you doing, my friend? Yes, Gregory, I do have a beard now.
Yes, he does. We're trading. We're only allowed one beard per show. So Ted is now in ownership of the beard. I am good. I'm very tired after last week. I don't know about you. I mean, I know about you. That was a RFK Refugees packed week, and we'll probably sort of wrap up on all that was and how we'll never do so many podcasts in 1 week again. But also there was soccer.
Yeah, how many players? Yes, Gregory, I am from the darkest timeline. That's how this works. Anyone knows. And this is the second community reference I've gotten to drop on the show. Anyway, but yes, lots of interviews, and apparently we don't learn our lesson because we're going to repeat it, or I'm going to repeat it. Maybe I get a bit of what you did. I did one podcast. I'm doing two. We are going to be having Tyler Terrens. I hope I'm saying that right. I'll make sure I'll get it right for the show. And Mark Fishkin to help us cover Chicago and New York Red Bulls, respectively. Mark, of course, good friend of mine from the CSRN days. And Tyler does the play-by-play and also hosts a podcast with Arlo White. So we get to talk all about how jealous we are to be next to the greatness that is Arlo White. And I'm sure we'll talk Chicago as well.
Yeah, I would lean heavy Chicago. I'm very curious to see how he takes that. Be like, yeah, no, he is great. He does smell wonderful. I love Arlo. But in case you didn't listen to every episode last week, I invite you to go back to the archives. We now have an episode with interview with Ashley Hatch. I think the second time she's been on the show, the week she won NWSL Player of the Week. We had an interview with Kevin Paredes, who I thought I was going to give the RFK Refugees bump into a great performance, and then apparently he was actually injured while he was training on the national team. So that opposite did not have the intended effect. And then we had the Dupe on the River podcast, where apparently lots of people thought that maybe they were a little bit too confident, and then we'll talk about how that bore out for us on the weekend.
Well, they had every reason to be confident because their team just went out and beat DC United. So they were right, we were wrong. I was kind of coming into this game, I was thinking, okay, all right, got some injuries. We got an opportunity here. Hey, they've got, I think, I looked at their players that were missing for either injury, suspension, or Gold Cup. And I was like, okay, I think this, if we're going to beat this team, it's going to come in this game because they're missing a lot of different players. And I was wrong. Philadelphia Union coming out 2-1 victors over DC United. Sorry, my internet connection's coming unstable. I hope I'm sounding okay.
You're sounding fine.
Okay.
Although I just realized that we're wearing the same jersey, and that was probably a visual mistake. we look like unused subs.
We are not wearing the same. We are not wearing the same jersey. I am wearing the authentic jersey. You're wearing the replica jersey. Anyway, back to the game. DC United 2-1 losers. 2-1 losers to the Philadelphia Union. So I guess I have a trouble with this game. I think this game was viewed by me at least as okay, this is where we're going to see kind of where this team stands. Where does this team actually sit in the table? Where do they sit in the actual where do they sit? Are we actually as good as we think we are? And I don't know if the answer is necessarily no. I don't think the answer is yes. I don't know if the answer is necessarily no. John, give me some of your thoughts. Give me some of what you watched this game live. What were some of your thoughts on the game?
I mean, the thing that you take away is that the Union sort of big leagued DC United. I think in the post game, Aaron Lozada called United a college team, and that they were not thinking strategically beyond the game right in front of them. Philadelphia, I think somebody else called it. I think it was. I don't want to get the name wrong, so I won't speculate. But somebody on Twitter was basically saying, you know how in rec league there's always an older team that uses the dark arts, and they're not fast anymore, and they're not necessarily that Philly's old, but as far as like the mind game strength is so strong that they can just beat anybody. That's kind of what happened here. I don't think DC United ever adjusted to Philly's tactics. They never adjusted to being kicked up and down the field over and over again. We have players fallen left and right. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about maybe it's luckily some of the injuries may not be as bad as we originally thought. But it was a game where they just could not adjust to the style of play, and they had to know what was going on ahead of the time. But they went down early on a goal that they will not be happy to have conceded.
Well, let's start with the positive. The first 10 minutes were actually pretty bright for
great.
This team. I mean, they were getting attacking soccer. You have Yamil Assad, and I want to talk about him because he probably had some of the best chances of the game, but I don't think he played a good game. And I'll get a little bit of kind of what I'm thinking about that. I don't want to say he played terribly. I just don't. What I see from him, and this was his best game, and it just still wasn't enough. And I thought there were some moments when Yamil would get the ball, and I would be like, all right, go forward. And he would kind of like pick his head up and try to think about what he was going to do next. And I thought that actually, on at least a couple of chances, I thought that really hurt the team in a lot of ways. They had the odd man rush, to use a hockey term. They had the advantage. I remember very specifically late in the game on I think it was a misplayed ball by Philly that was sort of picked up, and Yamil, I think, had either Robertha or somebody on the run, and I thought he plays a ball in there, that's a goal, and instead he tries to like dribble and think about it a little bit, and I don't think that fits what Losada is trying to do. Losada wants to play a style that's going to be go for it and attack, and I thought it hurt DC on a couple of occasions there.
I disagree pretty extensively. I just looked just to make sure, see what FootMob's take was on the game. They had him as man of the match at an 8-0. I thought he was more dangerous and more forward-looking than he has been all season long. He had confidence to dribble players on. The goal aside, I think he had two chances before his goal that were sort of vintage Yamil. He's not going to make every play. He's not going to make every pass positive. But I thought overall, and I have to watch the game again. It's been, you only get a little bit of an opportunity as the games are going live. But I thought I was pretty pleased with his play. Probably his best full game. He only played 85 minutes, but his best stint so far this season. Does that mean there's not room for improvement? I think there definitely is. But I think that overall, I had more problems with other parts of the field. I thought, like you said, they started really brightly. They took it to him on the road, and you're starting to say, I think there are lots of confident tweets about Losada ball at that point. Like, hey, see, we can do it against the good teams. We can do it on the road, not just against Toronto. And then unfortunately, conceded somewhat early.
And I think right now what you're getting in there is there's just that lack, that little bit of it's, I guess we'll call it an intangible factor that allows you to go in and win these games. And I think that's what kind of DC's missing right now. They're just missing that little bit of extra whatever. They played they probably had the better of play. Arguably,
and the goals on the counter too.
Chances. Mm-hmm.
And the goal,
yeah, both goals on the counter.
Yeah, the first goal came really out of a messed up opportunity, and Mbazo and Bedoya worked very, very well to put in Sergio Santos from very close. So that was the second goal. Was that the goal where Bill Hamid was very upset? I'm trying to remember now. I think that was the goal that Hamid stuck his leg out to the right hand side and got past him. He was very upset about it. It didn't seem like something he should have saved. Like it just sort of it was a breakdown in pressure in the midfield, and also just very, very positive counterattacking.
Yeah, the second goal I think was just a general breakdown. I will say, I think Andy Nahar deserves a little bit of blame for the first goal. I think if he stays, I think what he tries to do in that scenario, maybe it still ends up in the back of the net, but I mean he is trying to do what maybe what Losada is teaching him, which is pressure the ball. But the ball's coming down the side, and he basically leaves that entire right side completely wide open. And if he's going to do something like that, he better get the ball, because if he doesn't get the ball, then that we see what happens. So I think Andy Nahar deserves maybe a little bit of blame for that goal. I think if he holds his position, follows the attacker, I think it gives and trusts that his the defenders can track back. I think they kind of hold their shape a little bit, and I think they may be actually able to sort of ride that. But he sort of commits to trying to go get the ball and misses, and basically it's a wide open net, and it goes through Bill Hamid's legs. I think he might have been more reason to be maybe upset about that one, because he basically gets nutmegged. Bill gets mad anytime the ball strikes the net. You watch him; he gets angry when the ball strikes the net. But I mean, to be fair, and I think the important thing, the positive you can draw from this game is that this is a team that is still. I mean, I've watched many games against Philly last season, 2019, where this team absolutely just laid down. Philly has owned our lunch, and in several respects. I can't remember the last time we actually played a good game against Philly and got a victory. It's been a
10 in a row.
long while. And yeah, but it feels like, it does feel like it's getting a little bit closer now. It feels like if this team can maybe get some players in the offseason, maybe they're a little more healthy, maybe the Gold Cup it seems like they've just had bad luck on when they've been playing in this season. If you have maybe Areola back, Donovan Pines, some players like that are missing, obviously maybe a healthy Flores, maybe that game turns out a little differently. So it was a rough game. Then of course you had, I think it had to be personally pretty bad luck for DC to go down, and then immediately 2 minutes later the game gets called off. And then what was it, like an hour and a half rain delay, I believe, until they didn't pick up the game until like 11 o'clock. So then to come back out of there, needing to tie a goal, and you've just basically been able to sit around and stew for like an hour or so, like that had to be difficult to try to come back from that.
They also sent the DC United fans home. Unfortunately, they're like, we're not playing, go home. And then of course they did in fact play, and I think they watched the rest of the game from the bus. I think yes, they looked better maybe than they have in recent games. The challenging side there is that Philly was, we just talked about how shorthanded Philly was also. So this is not Philly's best punch. It's not our best punch, but I think that it's hard to really judge. I think we talked about this ahead of time. It's hard to really, when you have two teams that are shorthanded in a time period where we don't break for international break, and you're just trying to see what's going to happen with also injuries all over the place. It's hard to really say where you're going to stack up at the end of the season. It's like a very snapshot in time type of thing. But the injuries that they sustained in this game were interesting in that they came in pairs, which is unusual to have four subs come in two windows because two players got injured at the same time. Russell Canouse was, I think I had man on the street. Angus Young was there looking at the players as they were injured. Russell Canouse had his shoe off and his sock off, and he was limping off the bench. Adrian Perez took himself off the field while play was going on. And also had to be helped off. Also, I think additionally an ankle injury. The injury that was very concerning, and I think I was panic tweeting all about it. Is Steve Birnbaum coming off for an ankle injury? He looked very concerned when it happened. Obviously, after he got basically he got put on skates and tried to make an athletic play to stop the final goal from being scored. Could not do so, but. Apparently, it's not related to his injury, his long-term injury. So that's good. It's unclear how long he'll be out. It could be a high ankle sprain, and that could be a long time. But at least it's not related to the multiple surgeries that he had at his ankle. So that's something we could be happy about. And then Nigel Robertha also went down. I didn't necessarily see what happened to him. Hopefully that's minor because we're pretty shorthanded at the striker position. Ola Kamara is still he was missed due to family issues. So. We'll see who we line up on Wednesday.
Johnny Boulevard, man, that's who we line up. He's apparently been called up. Eric Sorga has apparently will go to Loudoun for the I guess the sort of a swap of international players. We're still waiting for Sorga's green card to come through, but apparently I think Golf has said he will probably remain an international through the rest of the season. So I think that dampens any hopes. Certainly sets up the team for next year. I will say, I don't know if you had a chance to check out some of the post game stuff, but there were some interesting comments from Losada. Losada, if anything, where's his heart on his sleeves when he's in those press conferences? He is nothing if but honest about what he thinks, and he will tell you what he thinks. And he had a couple interesting things came out. First of all, he sort of expressed maybe slight frustration at the fact that the team has not signed anybody or isn't talking about signing anybody. He seemed to say, hey, I need some new players in here. I need some help. If we want to get more out of this team this year, I need some help. And so that was interesting comment number one. As Jonathan M highlights here, the team shows how badly we need a finisher. And I would agree with that. I think I think both Ola Kamara and Bertha can be serviceable, but if we want this team to really take it to the next level, they need to find somebody who can really, really consistently put the ball in the back of the net. And I think now that's almost proven. Maybe that's Johnny Boulevard. We'll see. He'll get his chance. I'm sure this game might even get his first start. But it'll be interesting to see kind of how he adjusts. He has looked really good in Loudoun, and he has looked really good in the games against. In the friendly games, but again, those aren't real matches, so to speak. But we'll see.
Condolences to Too Loud Adams.
Yes, you get Eric Sorga back though, right? Sorga can help out. We'll see. But hey, that's the nature. That's the nature. If Johnny Boulevard comes out and it makes a name for himself, I'd say he'd be the first non-academy player to actually have something, have basically make a difference and sort of show the worth of getting those games and signing those players and putting them in the position. Because we've seen plenty of players in the past that have not been able to. To hold up to that. Second interesting thing also, he said he seemed to be pretty frustrated with the fact that Kevin Paredes came down with an injury going to the national team. I'm not sure maybe if he said anything at the time, but it seems to me like maybe he's maybe a little bit upset at the national team for what happened in that game. Take that with what you will. Take that with what you will. But yeah, any other thoughts you want to have on this game before we kind of wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this was it was a game in which we weren't. I don't think we played exceedingly poorly. I think that things had things didn't go their way, and injuries really hosed them. I think that they were really in a position where any sort of tactical changes that they wanted to make, already shorthanded in center back, already shorthanded at the 9, were going to really hose them if anything went wrong. And everything went wrong. You had 4 injuries in one game. So I'm really interested to see what kind of team we can cobble together for a 2-game week, continuing to miss our international players. Donovan Pine's at least getting to play now for the U.S. national team, so at least it makes sense that he's gone. But there, I'm not too concerned about it. I think this tells you about where we're at and sort of like mentality. I think as he made his college team comment, he sort of talked about the idea like sometimes you have to be smart and take the point. So that's sometimes what you have to do. And to me, I'm wondering if he's making that point clear at halftime, or shouting that out sort of to the team after the score is leveled, like be conservative. You had the halftime to have that conversation. So if they really, if this is not the first time he said that, right? He's made that comment multiple times now about sort of being smart about the game state and not taking chances that you don't need to take. I think New York City FC was another opportunity for that. But we'll see. We got a really big chance. You got to get points against Chicago, even on the road.
Yeah.
New York, a tougher beat than Chicago, although Chicago has won some weird games, which we'll get into in the preview. Like they beat Atlanta. I think they beat another team. They beat another team that they should not have beat. So you never know.
They are an improved team, and I think this is going to be an interesting matchup, and almost I think a semi-trap game for this team. Because I think we're seeing this team play well, but Chicago has also started to kind of put it together. E3PC says Mora struggles in this system.
Yes.
And I think we've sort of talked about, I think the problem with Joseph Mora is that right now, if you want to play in Losada's system in that wingback role, you need to have really, really good offensive ability. Julian Gressel has it, Kevin Paredes has it, and Mora does not. Mora is still kind of your classic right back type of player. He'll maybe be in support, but he doesn't really have a really good sense to drive forward. If you want to talk about a position, I think you could see DC look in the transfer window. It could be in that role to bring somebody in. I think this might be, unfortunately, I think Mora may be seeing his way out after the season. I just don't know if he quite fits this system. And honestly, he might be a player if I am Lucy Rushton, I'm looking at, hey, maybe he still would have some value. I could see some teams that maybe play a different style, a different setup where he might have some value if this team wants to open some transfer space and bring in maybe some different players. So he'd be a player I would say I would be at least shopping around because he's not that expensive. He still is a very solid wingback type player. So that's something to certainly watch. I'll be curious to see because DC's going to have to, if they want to get some players, they're going to have to open some roster spots because right now they are at the maximum amount of roster spots. That's why they're having to sort of send Sorga back down to bring up Johnny Boulevard. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting game against Chicago. I think that's a game. John, let me ask you this: would you be happy with a point out of that game if DC gets a point
against Chicago?
Would you be happy? Yes.
No. I would not be. No, I would not be. It depends on where we're calibrating our expectations for the rest of the season, right? I think if we're talking about the team that beat Toronto 7-1 and had us feeling very full of ourselves and talking about the offensive juggernaut this team is, I would not be satisfied with that. If we're talking about, well, we still need a bunch of new players and we're not there yet, and maybe we can squeak into the playoffs. We have to sort of set our expectations in the aggregate. Now, you take one step back from that and look at all the injuries we just faced and say that this might be a cobbled together lineup. Maybe you have to be happy with a 1 point and you have to once again just take the game in the exact minute that you're at. So overall, I would not be happy with it. I can convince myself after the fact if the game was positive that it ends up that way. But before we move on, I want to talk about another player that I think is not a fit for the system, or at least is not the player that he once was, at least currently. And I want to give a big disclaimer that he's probably still working back to fitness. He hasn't played in a long time. But Yordi Reyna has not impressed me in the style of play, in his pace, in his decision-making. And I don't, obviously he's going to get some opportunities now, right? I think that there's a good chance that he will, particularly with these injuries up front, he'll get more minutes than he would maybe warrant otherwise. Also, it will be interesting to see if when his international teammate, Essen Flores, comes back, maybe there's an opportunity to create some chemistry. But I have not been impressed. What have you had an opportunity to really pass a judgment on how he's played since he's come back from injury?
He was one of those players that I was kind of hoping. I'm like, if he can put it together, we might have something here. But I think I agree with you. I think he got a good opportunity to really show something, and he didn't. Now he's going to get a couple other opportunities. Maybe he develops into something. But I don't think he's a good fit. I mean, last season, he was essentially a emergency player when it looked like DC maybe still had a chance to make the playoffs. He was very much a emergency type player to sort of try to, the Utzon Buttle type signing, who kind of like, we need something. Let's get him in there.
And he's on $800K or something in that neighborhood. So you just can't.
I don't know what the trade breakdown is, but I'm pretty sure that probably Vancouver may be paying a portion of that salary. I think
last year, I think if we extended him, I think we got to look back in the archives, or if anybody is bored and wants to fill us out on chat. I believe the deal was they covered a portion of his fees in the year he came over. He was on an expiring deal. If we picked up his option, DC United would both pay the full freight and owe more money back to Vancouver for having signed the agreement. Or if they sold him, they could have done the same thing. So either way, I don't think either of us are happy with where he's put forward, but he's gonna get some opportunity here, I think, in the next two games. So hopefully he puts them together.
He's paying for. Probably that year. I'm guessing that option was for a year. So I imagine that this is the year. I think this was we didn't have anything else in the tank. Let's just pick up his option, pay the fee right now. He leased the solid option, and then we'll kind of figure it out. So I think it was worth it to give him that opportunity. And he's got an opportunity to show it now. Maybe he can work himself into this system. We'll have to wait and see.
Also exciting.
And then also we got Edison. Hopefully,
go ahead.
No, I was saying hopefully Edison could come back too. I want to see. I'm a bit worried. I'm waiting for him to make his return. It was supposed to be on the 14th. He was supposed to play on that Wednesday, and he hasn't returned. So I'm getting a little worried about him.
Yeah. Also exciting that Chris Odoyatsa makes the 18 for the first time in a game that counts this season. Also, Drew Skundrich, Mr. Andy Sullivan, has returned after a meniscus surgery and injury. So that's good from a depth perspective, particularly while this team is dropping like flies. I bet you that Hernan would not have liked to get those players in very soon, but I have a feeling that he might be getting in a little bit sooner than maybe he wanted to. Although Kevin Paredes basically said that you don't get on that 18 unless you're 100% ready to play. So I could be wrong. It may not have just been numbers, but the fact when you have two backup goalies on your bench means to me you're trying to make numbers. that it's less about the options on your bench and more about we need to have some people here. Anyway, that game is now over. We've got an opportunity to make 6 points this week, and we'll see how we do.
I think if this team can get 4 points out of this week, I think we'll call that a success.
Yep, agree.
I think 4 points would be successful. Anything more than that, 4 or 6 would be 6 points would be fantastic. One thing I do want to say is, so we can talk about how struggling that game was, but I mean, can we just talk about the fact that DC United was the team that nailed their coaching hire when you look at the two other big money teams that have now had to fire their coaches. You talk about Toronto, and then you have almost like an identical situation happen in Atlanta. I do want to talk about this. This is crazy. This is a crazy nut story, and it just in every sense of the word, it's unbelievable. So I don't know if you all remember too, but what Gabriel Heinze is doing. Actually, DC had a similar thing happen in 2004 with 2005 or 6 or whatever with Peter Novak. Peter Novak got accused of doing the exact same thing, withholding water from players, doing all kinds of things. I guess in that era of soccer, you could maybe get away with that. But this is sort of a new era. You have teams now that are literally designed to measure how hydrated players are. And apparently I forget the guy on Fox Sports has the story about this. It is incredible to me that a team like Atlanta and I feel like Atlanta eventually they're gonna bounce back. But just to completely, I mean, they just struck out 2 coaching signings in a row, and this is a team that has literally every single resource. They have resources that Hernan Losada would desperately want, like the training facility, everything. They have all these resources, and they have just completely whiffed on 2 major coaching signings. Even I think the DeBoer signing looks like an incredible coaching signing compared to this Heinze signing. I mean, unbelievable. And just like, it was almost like they were like, oh, we need to go get a South American. They find this guy, they take him. They apparently this was something common too that happened when he was at Velez Sarsfield, where Yamil Assad spent some time. So, I mean, not even to call like Yamil and be like, I mean, even Lucy Rushton was there, and Yamil said, hey, how was Gabriel Heinze? Maybe you trolled him. I don't know. But man, just a lack of research. I mean, this had to be well known. I mean, you call the former employer for a reason. I mean, just to absolutely whiff on this signing. Unbelievable. Just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you got to think that Bocanegra should be brushing up his resume, because you don't get to make. I mean, Darren Eales is also part of this. McDonough, the guy who was suspended, although I don't think he had much to say about this because he was mostly at Miami. But there's an issue there. And if I'm Arthur Blank and I'm signing these checks, I would say maybe we need someone that's more experienced. Maybe I made a mistake with Bocanegra, giving a young guy that had no experience in a front office and player evaluation this much rope. And obviously he hit it the first time, but since then it's been a real rough time. Joseph Martinez saying that this would be his last season, really, it shows you the player power he has on that team and with the fan base. That was kind of impressive to see. I think there was a furor on DC United subreddit trying to figure out what it would take to get him to be traded to DC United, and I think the answer would be more than anybody would want to trade, but that's neither here nor there because that's not happening now. But yeah, I mean that's a big whiff. They said, I saw somewhere on Twitter they were saying that in Velez players had like eating disorders, like they wouldn't eat or drink because they didn't want to gain an ounce because Heinze was so like horrible about it, about like player weight and all that stuff. So that's whoops. Like you said, I don't know if that's something. It seems like it was known. Sometimes that's something happens and then all of a sudden the stories come out of the woodwork and people were like, "Oh yeah, no one asked me, but I knew this and this and that." But either way, Atlanta is not the team they were a couple years ago. They still have the fan base they have, who have rightfully demanded an improvement, and I'm curious what they're going to see here, both in the near term and then next year.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, they're basically, I think right now probably, I mean, I don't know, maybe. maybe they aren't on De Boer's contract anymore since he went to he went to the Netherlands to coach there. Talk about like a crazy story of falling up. That still is crazy to me that you can get fired from an MLS team and then go and coach the one of the more prestigious national teams in the world. But I mean, I think with Atlanta United, I think in my opinion, if I am looking at possibly replacing the whole front office. Maybe they give them one more shot to find a coach. But I will not be surprised if maybe we see some heads roll higher up, because this is embarrassing. It's also embarrassing because it almost sullies your reputation, because they had a great reputation of bringing in, great talent. You had, the Miguel Almiron trade. They brought a lot of clout and they were able to bring in a lot of successful players. And then now it's like that one player you basically, shipped off to Saudi Arabia, the one that was supposed to be your real big payday. And then now you have this whole situation. You have the De Boer debacle. I mean, all of it's just kind of adding up for this team. I think they'll right the ship. I mean, they got the money to do it, but it is something that's clearly embarrassing for the team. So we'll see what they do. They certainly are not boring, I guess you could say. So maybe that's what they have for us. They're not boring even when they're a mess. They're not boring. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Washington Spirit. You had the pleasure of going out to Segra Field to watch them play against the New York, New Jersey Gotham FC. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, it's a lot of words and letters. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, but anyway, a crazy wild game. There was a red card inside 10 minutes. A lot of stuff going on. Give us some of your thoughts from the field.
Yeah, I think it was a match that was very, I don't know if you could predict the way it was going to go. Segra Field has its constraints. We've talked about it over and over again about not being able to water the pitch, sort of not really understanding what kind of game you're going to get. The only experience so far we have this season at Segra is the game against Chicago that they lost 1-0, and Chicago basically packed it in, put 2 6s in front of the back four, and made it impossible to play the kind of soccer that Richie Burke wants to play. Gotham is a possession-oriented team, usually a conservative possession-oriented team in their optimum setup. That's sort of the way they're set up to play. After getting a red card in the 7th minute, everything just became complete chaos. Like there were no systems, there was no strategy per se. I would be hard pressed to find it other than trying to burn up and down the wings. Trinity Rodman, once again, still battling back spasms, still finding a way to put defensive players under pressure, and this time really getting an opportunity to, finish. A great goal. Once again, Andy Sullivan proving Vlatko to be a bit of a dummy. I don't know yet. Maybe they'll win the goal, then I'm wrong. But Andy Sullivan had 6 minutes or 7 minutes, I guess, at midfield, and then 83 at center back, and was still assisting on the goal, was making gut-busting runs in the last 5 to 10 minutes after, basically I will tell you that her and Paige Nielsen were scrambling that entire game. Gotham had them under pressure. I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't even have the post-game stats, but I can tell you that Paige Nielsen, who at that point was not 90 minutes ready to go, at least judged by the high-performance coach, had to play 90 because center backs were running out. And also, they had a red card in that position. She put in a shift. She was unfortunately near every goal, or almost every goal, that Gotham scored. And you could say, like, if you look at it in slow-mo, you think maybe she could have done more. But other than that, other than the goals, she was literally, a tackle machine. She was throwing her body around. She was taking abuse. She was drawing fouls. She was shielding the ball. It was an impressive performance by her, I thought, overall. Trying to think other big pictures. Ashley Sanchez scores a wonderful goal. That probably will go on. That's her first free kick goal in NWSL. And post game, we asked her about it, and she said that because she almost scored in the 87th or 88th minute in the previous game against Audi Field, where she took 7 shots, she felt confident and thought she'd go for it, and she placed it. She placed it perfectly. That should have maybe been enough. Unfortunately, again, when you're down one player that long and you have talent and a team that is interested and has the talent and the firepower to score, I think they ran out of legs a little bit. Midge Purse scores in the, what minute was it? 76th minute. Just basically ran it down the side. Took advantage of the place where they were not packing. They had sort of moved their defensive players into more of a central shell to protect the goal and sort of allowing the wings as an opportunity for them to run up and down. And they did that. And they crossed it in to Midge Person, and she finished it. She had a great game. Midge was a handful. Another player that, this is the great thing about being the U.S. national team, is that you have, an entire second best 11 that you could probably bring to the World Cup and maybe medal. Or not the World Cup, but the Olympics. That's entirely possible. But overall, I think you can't be mad at the Spirit for having, gone down. And if you look at the red card, there's a picture that's taken. It's outside the box. Paige Nielsen is within a foot of, if it was a dogso, that's arguable. There was it was a very confusion. It was first given to Paige Nielsen, and then after 3 minutes of sort of thinking about it, she gave it to Sam. Sam did not argue. Sam was in fact the one to foul, but they were under it, right? The whole game, they were really under pressure the entire game. Richie said, "I'm not pulling my offensive players off the field. I want to win at halftime. I want to win. Go out there and do it." Unfortunately, Ashley Hatch has a recurrence of her concussion symptoms for the second or the third time this season. Trinity Rodman's not 90 minutes fit. You're shorthanded on the bench. If you look at the bench of that game, it was Kumi and then 11 players that were, or however many players that were not with the team when the season started. You got 6 national team replacement players. You get a new player that just signed from the Mexican national team who is a defender who came in and played, I think, about 10-15 minutes. And then a lot of rookies. It was a real struggle when you have the depth situation that you get in the Olympics. It's you gotta hope that no one gets hurt, and you gotta hope that those rookies and those new national team players, replacement players, can handle the job. I'm not concerned. I thought they played well considering.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they nearly pulled out a point when they went down a man, already a tough enough job, I think, as it is. But the fact of how they fought and how they came back, obviously, great goal from Trinity Rodman, and all the good players, your players you want to see score. Ashley Sanchez, Trinity Rodman are scoring goals, and I think the red card was very questionable. I think it was. I don't know if it was. I've watched it a couple times, and I can see what the referee was saying, but I think the fact of the matter was the fact that the referee didn't know which defender to give the red card to is almost always going to be a. I will be curious if this referee shows up again, and I'll be curious maybe if there's if the red card is rescinded by pro. I'm kind of curious if they'll step in and say nope, that wasn't dogso. A lot of people were saying it should have been a penalty. Which I guess if it had been a penalty, I don't know if it's still a red card. I don't know if it was the play was a grab on the shirt. I don't know if that's a genuine attempt to play the ball, in which case it could still be a red card. There has to be a genuine attempt. Grabbing the shirt. Certainly, I don't know if that qualifies for that. But it is what it is. I don't know if VAR saves it. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
Incredibly soft for that early stage in the game. Obviously, you don't referee about the stage in the game, and you're not thinking about that. But it was unfortunate because all I could think throughout this game was this game would have been a lot better 11-on-11, and it wasn't clear and obvious that it should have been the case. There may have been an owner from a certain NWSL franchise who was clearly displeased with the call and let the referee and assistant referee know it for much of the game. I won't say who or what, but that is entirely possible. It was, they're really trying to overcome Segra, right? I think that they're a lot better team when they're on grass, when they're on a bigger pitch, when it's a little bit wider, when it's faster. So they're fighting against a third party basically when they play games here, and they put a great effort together for almost the entire 90 minutes. I really hope that I hope Ashley Hatch does not have a concussion. I hope if she does, she's given a little bit more time off to figure out what she's going to do about that. It's very unfortunate. She scores a brace in the previous week, is the player of the week, comes on the show, having a great time, and then this happens again. It's very unfortunate. And I'm trying to think of any other players. Anna Halferty had another good game at right back. I know that Richie is a big fan of hers, and sort of.
Was she the one who played the ball over to Stab in the? I think she sort of plays kind of that ball, and maybe Stab doesn't do a good job recovering it. but I'm pretty sure she at least plays a part in getting in that situation over there. I'll have to go back and watch it.
I will say that there were a number of hospital balls, all through. I mean, before the red card, after the red card. I think that is, you're playing with fire, right? When you are saying, I'm going to play out of the back, I'm going to play out of the back with 10. I'm not going to play long out of the goalkeeper spot, and they would pass it, and Gotham was not going to just let that happen. They pressed the entire time, and there were a number of times. Dorian Bailey, there was a series of time in the 40th minute where there was a giveaway that should have been a goal by Dorian Bailey in the 30th, one by Paige Nielsen in the 34th, and then Zerboni scores in the 35th. Like, it was just they just sort of a bad run. I don't think they couldn't withhold the pressure the entire time. Gotham's a good team. Gotham also, up to this point, had only conceded 3 goals all season. So they almost doubled their amount of goals conceded. I think Jason Anderson called it out on Plex Weather. He was saying that, yes, that is the statistic, but it just seems like they have been blessed, basically. Like, the XG and the goals actually conceded number was so different that there was just a force field around their net. So, red card for Sam Staub, that'll hold unless it gets rescinded, like you said. So center back is still a challenge. Karina Rodriguez potentially may step in. They may go Tori Huster not being available was a problem. She was hit with a shot in the previous game, and I don't know. It wasn't a concussion. It just said basically upper body, and she couldn't play. So I don't know if it was ribs or what. I think it would have made a big difference if she was available, both from a sort of where you put the players after the red card situation, maybe allow Andy to stay more forward and move Tori there. But that's the way that goes. That's why these rosters are so big. So hopefully they get some bodies back pretty soon. This is I don't have who they're playing next. I think I have it up.
They're playing Racing Louisville on the road.
Okay, so that's important. So that is they're playing away. They lost to Louisville 2-0 last time when they played them away. Not a great game, and the goals that they conceded were very weird individual mistakes. You'd like to see them. This is a real. I think for them, if you look at the table, besides being insane, and I'd advise you to look at how insane it is. Like it's very competitive in the playoff spots. Yeah. The top 6, they're very, very tight. So no one is running away with this. The Olympic break is where I thought that this team could put some distance amongst the other teams because of the fact that they were at the time before injuries, very deep and also sort of in the positions that they needed help. They had cover, but they're not really accumulating all the points that they would maybe hope to. So. It's still a long time. The Olympics haven't even started yet, so there's some games to go. But Louisville should be a win. I know that Richie would be looking for 3 points, even on the road, even with the injuries. That I think that they, if you got a Ashley Sanchez, and you got a Trinity Rodman, you got a chance. Which is crazy because they're so young, but it's true.
Yeah, and they had a chance in this game. And any word, I mean, so clearly now there is running water. I think the idea that they can water the turf could help make that field a little better.
They could, but they don't.
Yeah.
They don't. Why is there not? You know how they used to have at RFK, they would have the 4-wheeler with the big giant tank of water and the little sprays and just drive back and forth over the field to wet it down. Why not do that?
Yeah.
They could do that. That's a thing you can bring with you, but they don't do that either. So it's a very I don't want to say it's a second-class citizen situation over there at Segra, but it feels that way. When you have sort of the basic needs not being addressed in that way for the field, that affects the gameplay. It's upsetting. I want them to play all their games at Audi Field. I like driving out to Loudon. My car didn't like it because I was whipping around corners like I was in the Autobahn, and I got a check engine light. So my bad. But they need to play. I hope next season is 100% at Audi Field. I don't know what the agreement is for 2022, but. Man, I hope so. I think that's where they need to be for a bunch of different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, the hope is that the new W League team coming sort of fills those dates in Loudon, and the Washington Spirit can move to Audi Field, or at least have more games at Audi Field. So I don't know. It is what it is. The situation. I think DC deserves. Certainly a little bit of the blame for not having things ready. It's taken an incredibly, even with the pandemic, I feel like everything we should have a training facility by now. I feel like there are teams that have stood up a training facility quicker than what DC, and there isn't any issue like a DC building in the city. It's Loudon. There's nothing but like grass and dirt, and you just have to, build. I don't know. I don't know all the details. I'm sure if someone came on the show, no, there's all these details and everything. But I feel like there's a lot of things a lot of things going on with this team. Spirit still play at the auxiliary RFK fields. I'm fairly certain.
And Audi, they train at Audi.
They're waiting for the DC training facility to be done.
The DC training facility, it looks from the outside is done. It's all interior work now, so there should be nothing stopping them. I think that you know that it's bad when I'm talking to Spirit players and I'm like, hey, you're supposed to get it this summer or this fall, and they're all like, yeah, whatever, whatever you say, man. We'll see when it actually happens. But it should be soon. A lot of those players live out there. Most of them live out there. Yeah. Kim says, dollar signs. Maybe so. I mean, when I was looking at Segra Field from where the no press box is, through no fault of any with this, Jordan, if you're listening, this is not a criticism of you. The fact that they did not build a press box anywhere in the facility is so strange to me. Whenever, like, my high school football stadium has a press box, you just stick a trailer on top of the top deck of the last row of the bleachers, and then you have a press box. It's not crazy. But it's so, when I think, like, they were talking about, like, oh, we built Segra, so, we're very capital committed. And I was like, guys, this could not have cost that much money. I couldn't afford to build it, but it should never be an excuse for what you couldn't spend elsewise. Unless things that are, secretly expensive that I don't know or expect. But it is a very minor league stadium.
Yeah. And I don't doubt, I mean, unlike what goes on at over at Audi Field, and how it's pretty much what it is what it is right now, and it's not going to get much bigger. There is a lot of room for expansion at that stadium. So I think it was very clear they were like, let's get at least a little bit of this together. I think the pandemic delayed a lot of things that would happen with that stadium. I do think the team has room there to grow and maybe it is about the money. I don't know. Yeah, this is something I think the team and their capital and how much money they have, I think maybe has led them to rethink some things. So we'll see
spending
what
any money at Segra is good money after bad. They're having a big problem drawing fans to Loudoun United games for very reasonable reasons. They don't win games. It's not soccer that I think that I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if the Loudoun market was a thought that there's a big untapped market out here. They're obviously big in youth soccer, so the thought was maybe similarly you're gonna fill the stands with those folks. But even before the pandemic, you didn't see big crowds there, and any money you spend there, it's always gonna be turf. They're not gonna change that over. So, like, you can only make this so nice. So I would not spend any money more on it, and just say, Spirit, you guys can train here. You're going to play all your games at Audi Field in 2022. We're going to have USLW League here for the 3 months of the season that lasts, and Loudoun United will continue basically as a DC United 2 reserve team, where if any player does remotely well, we're going to steal that player, and we are not going to spend any money on free agents, and that's okay. But, like, maybe that says USL Championship is not, in the long-term plans as the reserve league comes up in 2022 or 23. What's the year for that?
20. I think it's next year. I think they're bringing it. The W League team is supposed to be next year. I think there is. I think there is an interesting point you bring. I feel like Loudoun United was the carrot to the leadership to say, hey, we want to build this training facility, and we'll bring a pro sports team here. We'll bring one of our reserve teams down here. And I think that was a way to sort of bring in those fans. And I think, it's still far enough in the area, and don't doubt that if this team suddenly puts it together and they start playing good soccer, maybe more people decide they want to come out. But I think the Loudoun United being there, naming the team Loudoun United, not DC United 2, I think was all part of the idea that, hey, we're going to put a team out here. It's going to be Loudoun, and I think that was part of the draw. And then also hey, we're going to get the Spirit. We got Old Glory Rugby out there. It is again, as I said before, it is what it is right now. And I think if Johnny Bolivar, goes in here and starts lighting up for DC United, then Loudoun United was absolutely worth it. Let me just say that, because that's its goal. I mean, its goal is to provide players for DC. We feel like go read our website for reviews of Loudoun United. I think John and I have sort of realized that we are stretched a little bit too thin as far as trying to cover all these things.
Yes, but thank you for our guest writers who are. I think there's certainly a market of people that are very interested in how Loudoun's doing. It's small, but it exists. So we want to make sure that we're covering that. Have we actually talked about what Brendan Heinzike injury is yet? We didn't talk about. We just said that says that he's missing.
Yeah, no, maybe we didn't talk a little bit about that. We can get into that.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's brief. He has a fractured hip socket. The wall of his pelvis, I guess, and his left hip is fractured. No surgery, but the expectation by Steve Goff and the team is that he'll be gone more than the six games, several months most likely. So Birnbaum is a question mark in center back with his new ankle injury. Heinzike is out for the extended period. So you have Fred Briant, who had not played much sort of after the beginning of the season. You have
Tony Alfaro and Andy Nahar.
And that's what you got. And there isn't really, if you want to look at a position that's weak in Loudoun, you don't want to bring any of those center backs over here. You do not. You don't. That is not a fix.
Maybe DeShields. I mean, maybe out of necessity.
Man, I don't think so. Yeah. Logan Pancho also got dumped from Loudoun United to go do something that's not soccer. And I'm not just being mean. Like, literally, that's what the release says. He's doing non-soccer opportunities. So, yeah, that is not – the midfield is the place you'd want to steal some players from. Loudoun United defense is not it. Yeah. So, I'm imagining maybe in the window you've got to make –
You also – I mean, you have Joseph Mora who can maybe slide in there.
Yeah, man, I'm not feeling good about that. I'm not feeling good about that. I guess it's a question of like, how do you prioritize your limited amount of money and spending in a window? Like, do you address your overall long-term needs, or do you worry about sort of fixing the holes in the boat made by sort of the injuries? Maybe Birnbaum bounces back in 2 weeks or a week and we're good to go, and who cares? But I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling confident.
Yeah. Well, Russell Canals also went down. Yeah, I see. Obviously, Donovan Pines. We're talking. We're still a good, at least a good 3-4 weeks before Donovan Pines and Paul Arriola are returning, assuming the U.S. doesn't get bounced from the quarterfinal round of the Gold Cup. They got a 1-0 victory. Pines apparently looked a little bit shaky from reports. Early reports were good, and then he started to look a little bit shaky. So. We'll see. I think at that point I'm just like, all right, Pines, come on back. Please come back.
Kim mentions Felipe and Canals. Like you said, Canals is injured. I'm thinking about Felipe at center back, and maybe. I mean, maybe if you got to do what you got to do, right? I think I think that he is. A lot of people criticizing his speed right now, sort of coming back from injury. Like that's not coming back quite the way it was, and it's causing some problems for him. So maybe center back helps you hide a little bit of those deficiencies. He certainly has the tenacity for it. He doesn't have the size necessarily for it, but neither does Andy, and he's making. We're obviously center back with Andy, but quote unquote. But we'll see. We got to figure out how to ways to plug the boat. We're back to talking about injuries again, which I know Ernan loves. Yeah. I can't wait to ask him about that at a press conference. Well, but that's where we're at.
At the very least, I don't think any of these injuries, at least most of not all of them, can't really be tied to him. You have a dude breaking his hip bone is not anything that you could really point. I mean, it really point to as caused by anything you're doing in training. Obviously, Paul Arriola picking up a knock. He's over there in the U.S. team. Obviously, Paredes picking up an injury apparently with the U.S. men's national team, training with them. So I think you got to look at some of those and say, okay, well, it's not this is not early season DC United bad. I don't think we're going to see 3-4 players in the roster on the bench. I think we're going to see the full complement, if not near the full complement. So not as bad, but still an issue, and I think the team's going to have to figure out and address it. I think Canals going down, Moses Nyman slides right in. I think with Perez going down, Reyna hasn't looked good, but he's still an option, and he still is a pretty talented player. And then you got Edison Flores, hopefully closer to coming back. I hope this holding him back has just been he's not quite there yet. We need to get him to 100%. And you still got options with Robertha, and maybe Kamara's back by Wednesday. So,
Robertha injured. We'll see if he's available.
This is not the situation with DC where players were going down and you're like, oh man, there's just no one. Who are you going to throw in there? at that point. So I think this is definitely a different team with a little bit more depth. And we'll see what happens in the transfer window. So being
definitely
tested,
this is the first time it's being really tested. I think. Well, that's not true. The earlier in the season was also that. This is not quite as bad as that. I think you would say that's basically what you're saying.
I think this is a test because expectations are a little bit higher. Early in the year, we were like, we have, who knows what this team's going to be like. I mean, we don't know anything about what this team is going to do. And then I think, with DC right now, there's now expectations a little bit raised. You're sitting, in the playoff hunt. At the time coming out of that Toronto game, I'm thinking, we can push maybe for like a home playoff game if things go well. Right now, I'm like, I think we'll be either between 5th at best, 7th if we're talking playoffs. Maybe just missing out on that. I think my hopes and expectations of this year have kind of dwindled a little bit, especially with the injuries, with the games coming up. But I think this is a critical week too for this team. So yeah, critical week all around.
Yeah, Kim brings up Yao maybe being an opportunity for him to play. There are still some young players that have an opportunity here to really to do well. Also, I don't want to oscillate too wildly here. Like, we lost obviously after a game that we would like to win, but I don't think we played necessarily poorly. The good thing is, like, it's the style that they're playing is right. It's good. We like it. The results aren't always there, and sometimes maybe, and Hernan has talked about this multiple times, they could be a bit more sophisticated in what their their on-field game management in certain situations. That's fine. That says to me there's talent on the field. They're in every game. If they go 2 games without a point in these 2 weeks, like, maybe I think then you could be a little bit dour. But I think overall we're not too down after this game. We're just down that they beat the crap out of the players so much that we're gonna have to that Drew Skundrich might be starting after a long layoff right away.
I mean, I come back to this. And I say Hernan had a say in maybe 1 or 2 players, if that.
And Brendan Hines-Ike was one of them, and he's been phenomenal.
Brendan Hines-Ike has been one of them. Robertha's been solid. Robertha's been the other one. He's been solid. I think he's been better than I expected. So I think it's worth to look at that and say, this is the start of something. This is not the conclusion. If we were year 2 or 3 in this, maybe we'd be a little bit more worried about what's going on. But this is year 1, and already you can see that Hernan has gotten more out of this team than a lot of people thought. He's gotten people to buy in, and I think that's important. It's building a culture, and I think he has done that. He is starting to do that in a lot of ways to sort of build that culture. So hopefully that continues. A lot of ways to go, and again, when we have some options, we'll see what happens. All right, y'all. I think that's going to do it for the show. We're going to have a lot of game previews coming up for you. May have some other more surprises for you. We're going to keep the content coming thick and heavy. So definitely check that out. We're probably going to just drop them as it comes out. We're not gonna. Maybe we'll drop it for the
Patreons. We'll get it early, no matter what. Make sure that if you like getting the stuff right away, that's really that's when we try to figure out what can make it worth your while. Other than you just wanting to support the show, which we appreciate, particularly on the backs of a 4-episode week. We very much appreciate your support. But that's the idea, is that we can give it to you as soon as you want. Do you really want to have an episode basically every day of new RFK Refugees content? Too bad. You're going to probably get it anyway. And if you are a Patreon subscriber, you'll get it even sooner. You'll have it almost the instant it comes off the assembly line. So I hope you like that. And also thank you for everyone joining us on Twitch and everywhere else that you're joining us. That is, Twitch is our official, unofficial preferred platform for a number of reasons that we'll get into hopefully as soon as next week, maybe the week after. We're also looking at potentially trying to co-stream an NWSL game. The Cooligans did that yesterday. I think it would be something really fun for us to do. Particularly as it's an away game, and I think there's a little bit of a run of away games, so my family will see me on weekends. I will not be running out to Segra or Audi Field every weekend, so I'm pretty excited about that. I think that might be a fun opportunity for us to all watch the game together and have an opportunity to, make it a thing, like what we would do in person. So if you're listening to this episode on Tuesday, make sure that you're following us on Twitch, twitch.tv/RFK Refugees.
Yep, and anywhere you want to follow us, obviously listen to the show. By the way, I don't know if you're a Patreon subscriber, I do want to drop, you get your own private RSS feed. So you get, when the shows come out, as soon as I'm editing them, they go right up onto onto that private RSS feed. So go to the patreon.com. They've got some directions on how to get that filled out. So definitely check that out. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. We will catch you guys all the time.
All the time.
Vamos.
We're just hanging out. Vamos.
Yes, hanging out. Vamos.